Good afternoon, everybody, and let's put a zinc back into the proceedings. Quick show of hands. Very, very tough question to answer this one. How many of you have watched web video on your personal computers? That's about it? Okay, another tougher question. How many of you have watched web video on devices other than your personal computers? So your tablets, smartphones, consoles, Xboxes. Great, so it's set. Okay, next slide please. So, television is dead, bold proclamation. I can see a few sniggers in the audience. But anytime you talk about a disruptive application or technology, it's good to imagine the worst. Let's get the basic definition out of the way so that we are all on the same page. What does over-the-top mean? It could mean various things. It could mean that you're using a service which is on the service provider's network but not really offered by the service provider. It could mean that it's an additional service given by the service provider apart from the core services. Or it could mean that it's a service facilitated by the service provider but not an end-to-end offering. Okay, so I'm not going to get into all that. I'm going to oversimplify it. And for the purpose of this session, over-the-top video is simply video served over the internet. Doesn't matter what device, what format, live, on demand. As long as it's video over the internet, that's what we're talking about anyway. Pardon me for the cricket hangover. So why are we talking about it, right? All of us have seen phenomenal growth of video over the internet. It's so phenomenal that even enterprises really can't choose to ignore it. So if you look on the left-hand side, there's a bit of consumption statistics. There's folklore that YouTube in 2007 used as much bandwidth as much as the entire internet capacity in 2000. Okay, whether that's true or not, the bottom line is that the way data traffic has grown, it's explosive. If you look at some of the statistics from broadcasters who streamed, soccer online, they've had millions of viewers accessing video over the web. Now, some of you might be skeptical and say, yeah, online video, but that's user-generated portals, free, piracy, torrents, blah, blah, but these are all examples of legitimate video distributors. And on the right-hand side, there are two examples of companies who actually made money off it, who are profitable. And look at Hulu, they've doubled their revenues in a single year in 2010. They're estimating it to grow to 500 million in 2011. Netflix, the DVD rental company, okay, when they launched the service online around 2009, a lot of skeptics. We've done some modeling to figure out how many streams they actually did in 2010. 2.5 billion streams. Okay, for a company that launched the service in a year and a half. Now, nuts and bolts, back end, who's making money off it? CDN companies, Akamai, Limelight Networks, all those guys, hybrids. Over 42% of the revenues in 2010 was from video content distribution. You know what's the interesting bit? That in 2009, all of them were making video money from all these free sites, user-generated portals, but the recession ensured that those UGC guys were gone. Most of the revenues are from legitimate, large M&D companies. And I'm going to throw some more statistics in addition to what Camille already showed, Tim showed yesterday, and John McHugh had a presentation where he said that video consumption is going to grow to 7x over the next 2 to 3 years. ITU says internet users 2 billion 2010. Okay? Broadband users 1.5. Look at the numbers for mobile broadband as well as fixed broadband. Nearly 1 billion mobile broadband subscriptions in 2010. Again, some more additional data on how many broadband-enabled devices have penetrated the market. Okay, Tim had some staggering numbers about the penetration could reach as much as 7 billion in about 4 to 5 years. All right, I'm not disputing it. I've seen over 750 million units being shipped, and that doesn't include television sets. You know, there's 5 different types of consumer devices, and this is the kind of shipments we've seen. It's not just about data traffic. So when you see all those numbers, broadband usage, broadband enabled, you know, devices, iPads, iPods, blah blah. Okay, lots of data traffic, right? What does that mean to you as a service provider, as a network equipment vendor? And so we look at this competitive landscape behind over-the-top delivery. Traditionally, if you look at the digital media markets, this is how it's siloed. There are content providers, content distributors, there are networks, you know, who distribute the content, and then there are the device manufacturers. You put over the top in a nice little plate, keep it on the table, and see what happens. Everybody wants to get into each other's space. It looks attractive. It looks excellent in terms of monetary, you know, returns for them. Is that so? We don't know, but a lot of serious names are in this business. I've just listed a few who are from all over the space, the IT system companies, content distributors, broadcasters, telco service providers. If any of you in this audience is also doing OTT and you don't see a name on the list, don't pay me for it. It's just a sample. So with this, I'm going to just set the panel open to discuss how good is over-the-top video delivery, how bad is it, what are the challenges, and I'm going to start the question with Sakri. As a service provider, tell me how are you leveraging over-the-top video delivery? Are you providing it as a service? Because you also provide IPTV, right? So how does it run side by side?
Okay, thank you for the question. First of all, I would like to give the perspective of the OTT from our definition. So for us, the OTT is basically the platform that you actually deliver your media streams over the internet. Okay, and then normally how we deliver, and then in terms of the control by the service provider is not in control. Okay, unlike the IPTV, where IPTV is a premium service and then it's being managed end to end to ensure the quality of service being delivered and then to ensure that there is a quality of experience to the end customer. So from our perspective, the plan of Telecom Malaysia, when we embark on this high-speed broadband network, we have actually introduced the IPTV as part of our multi-play or triple play services. What we are trying to do now is that because our HSPB project is basically only confined to a few areas, where this is the area where we actually deploy the fiber-based networks. But we also have these very substantial DSL-based customers, which currently around 1.7 million customers. So what we are trying to do now is that for us to provide a more value-added service to our existing customers. At the same time, try to leverage on the content that we already acquired, that we are delivering for our IPTV customers, our high-speed broadband network, to this larger base of the customers. So that's what we are trying to do now. Hence, and then at the same time, we are looking at the OTT as another means for us to ensure customers subscribe to highest speed packages. Before this, on the DSL-based services, we have 384K, 512, 1 meg. So with the additional value-added services that we offer on the OTT, would allow customer to actually upsell the customer to subscribe to the higher speeds, okay, that we are offering. So right now there is initiative done by our company to look into how should we deliver this OTT. So yeah.
So yeah, it's an attractive proposition because yeah, there are that many million subscribers already that who are accessing content on your mobile or your fixed line networks. And then it gives you are incentivizing them to kind of get on higher data plans, right? That being said, okay, you're saying that IPTV means better quality, right? But that scenario is changing. So a lot of the consumer devices that these subscribers have access to have better form factor. So it won't be long enough before they all start demanding HD quality on their iPads or on their internet TVs. So how are you equipped to handle that kind of a demand? If Ravi, you could step in to see what you're seeing among the customers or the service providers, how are they, is the network really equipped enough to handle that kind of pressure?
Okay. So it's really about scale per dollars or cost per bit from a telco service provider standpoint. From an equipment vendor standpoint, I think we are looking at better user experience, quality of service, low latency networks, and absolutely this is all about traffic engineering and helping the service provider customer make money. So there are a lot of things like at the edge, probably we're looking at technologies like S-flows, which we have, the flow-based technologies in terms of looking at how we can help monetize and place, for example, a good example would be ad insertion. The beauty about it is, while the content is on the cloud or wherever it is, right, whether it is on the seat, but the service provider knows where it is being delivered. So I think that's the key in terms of creating that ability to monetize that. So I think that's point number one. So it's about network engineering. It's looking at flows, looking at how we can monetize it, along with third party, obviously. Brocade as an equipment vendor would not have those third party, so where interactivity comes in and you can, monetize that. So that's would be my perspective. Some of the examples that you stated, we've engineered, Limelight is for an example. We've engineered that network, and that's the largest CDN network. The recent announcement was from Highwinds, which is another CDN. So we've engineered such networks. We have the background. We understand how we can take an off-road and look at a CDN network, for example. Typically, a telecom service provider would look at a CDN to deliver to provide a particular user experience.
But let me extend that question to you. You're the LTE guy. So this high penetration of broadband-enabled devices, what does that really mean in terms of impact on the traffic?
Well,
and how do you think are we equipped to handle it?
I do. I think that just the phenomenon that OTT exists is a testimony to the fact that broadband networking really enables this. Where 3 to 5 years ago, the YouTube business model just wouldn't have worked. The network could not have supported it. The quality of experience watching those videos would have been so bad, and people might have tried it once, but they would have never come back. And now we're seeing a couple of billion views from just one company in this space. So it's a huge phenomenon and a testament to the fact that the networks that the service providers that are here have built with the equipment coming from the equipment manufacturers, it works. So it's a good problem to have. I think that we're now looking at how to leverage the success of that, how to put the instrumentation in the network so that you can see the usage patterns and have the network increase the quality with which you can support it. And also having that instrumentation in place so that you can count. So I bought this device on the last day that AT&T had the unlimited bandwidth usage. And I bought it for a reason, because I watch streaming video and soccer games and baseball and everything else on this device when I'm on the move a lot. In a lot of places in the world, there is no such thing as unlimited bandwidth anymore. our company headquarters for Accedian Networks is in Montreal, Canada. The local provider there caps video usage at about 50 gigs per month, and over that they pay. So as soon as the teenagers come home and download one HD movie, the family's bandwidth for the month has been consumed. And I think you'll start to see that that sort of model perpetuate.
Right. So, is it just an issue of optimizing the networks, or are there other challenges that you see service providers having with OTT?
So we see that it's a fundamental change in user content consumption. The user is now accessing the content on mobile devices, on multiple devices, being a PC, a TV, or a mobile solution, and is doing that really on demand. So that means to the network that there is actually a fundamental increase in cost and tax. And that cost comes to service providers in terms of bandwidth. Because on demand, unlike IPTV, on demand generates a one-to-one relationship between the user and the content. While IPTV is really a many-to-one kind of relationship, source to many users. So what I think needs to change, not only the network and optimize, but there's really new business models that have to come. Because over the top players, you've got to ask yourself, who owns the relationship with the end user? The service provider actually provides the broadband connection, but really the end user is accessing YouTube. So does YouTube and Google own that relationship? Who's getting the money, if anything? And by the way, I think it's YouTube or Google from ads, and not the service provider. So aside from the network, which definitely has some challenges, and at Alcatel-Lucent we have solutions to address those. We're also working with our customers to find the right business models to deal with this fundamental change in business relationship.
Great points, and you know what? That's a critical aspect, business models, right? And Greg was saying this is a good problem to have, perhaps for equipment vendors. For service providers such as Sakri, tell me something. What kind of business models are you imagining over the top? Is it just going to be, okay, higher data plans and where more ARPU in terms of that, or are you also imagining other business models?
Basically, what we are trying to do is, as I mentioned earlier, is about how to capitalize the current content that we have and then to offer the larger scale of customer that we have. So from the issue that we are currently trying to figure out is that how to ensure if we actually indeed offering OTT, how to ensure we can minimize costs in terms of capturing that OTT over the network. How, at the same time, if we ever go into this OTT, there must be some differentiation, right? So we have in one quadrant, we have IPTV having a very massive bandwidth requirement, super quality of service that we have to ensure consistently. We have the independent over-the-top player, which is actually putting their content over the network, but running transparently over the service provider network. So if we ever go into this OTT, at what quadrant we have to give? So we have to have a solution that is lower in cost, but also quality has to be better than the traditional OTT players. Okay? So that from that, there is a differentiation to the customer to subscribe to our service. Because right now, the challenge of the service provider, as Rotem mentioned as well, the ownership of the customer, right? Right now, service provider is just a mere pipe provider, alright? The issue that we have right now is that anything problem regarding the YouTube that user SSA is being blamed by the service provider, right? But service provider has to ensure that there is, to keep the cost intact in delivering the broadband, there are bandwidth dimensioning planning that we put the network. Otherwise, to ensure low buffering of the OTT, the cost would be higher. So that's the question. So now we are looking into various technology on how to ensure if we go into OTT, we can minimize the cost structure. So what we are thinking for right now is that there are two technology that we have analyzed. One is delivering OTT over P2P mechanism, meaning allowing a user to actually share the same content when the stream is being accessed by one subscriber is also being shared by a subsequent user that accesses the same content. There is a technology that talking about how to deliver OTT via P2P nature. And then, of course, the another method is traditional unicast, where you are a user accessing the content to a specified source. So with that, there are also a few challenges on how being a service provider now, if we go into OTT, now the ownership is actually end-to-end, right? Before this, maybe we can say, YouTube server is having problem. They do not have capacity. They are not sizing up their server capacity to handle more concurrent users. Now, if we go to OTT, it's like on end-to-end. So we have to ensure, and then we have to find a mechanism on how to ensure the quality of service in terms of troubleshooting. How can we trace if there is a complaint by the user? So the key here is that, as I mentioned, it's about to try to capitalize on the content that we have of our HSPD network, as well as if we go into OTT, try to minimize the cost in delivering OTT. That's something that we are trying and then analyzing at the moment.
Okay. I have a follow-up question, but before that, among the service providers in the audience, a show of hands of service providers who provide IPTV services. Okay. How many of you have invested in over-the-top video delivery? Okay. Either there aren't many representative service providers.
It's like PM alone.
Or something is lost in translation. Okay, how many of you in this audience think that over-the-top video is the next frontier of video consumption globally? How many of you think? None of you? Just one of you? Okay. Do you think that it's a problem that you don't want to take on your hands? Be it an equipment vendor or a system integrator or a service provider. There's too much traffic, there are too many formats, resolutions, form factors, blah, 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 hogging the pipe over time. How many of you think that it's a huge challenge? Yes.
Two things that I want to add. So, the comment was said, if we embrace OTT.
Yeah, okay.
And for me, the if maybe is not the right word. I think service providers cannot fight it. It's on your network. It's user generated, it's user consumed, whether we like it or not. So I think it's not if, it's a matter of why I haven't done so already, or really when I'm going to do it. And the reason what's going to drive service providers to really take that on is pure bandwidth cost, without being able to generate revenue for that capital investment. So you're going to start looking and seeing this traffic on your network being produced more and more because it's over-the-top play. You're not in the value chain because the revenue is being taken by the over-the-top. You're being commoditized, and really there is a capex investment required continuously with no revenue generation. So I think this is a very interesting business issue that service providers are facing, and I'm surprised that the audience no more hands went up, and maybe they seem to be happy to ignore that they can't really make reasons.
But I don't think this is a new problem or unique. I mean, I've got enough gray hair that it shows that I've been working in the industry for a while. People were worried about all this internet traffic getting into the voice lines. And it was, what are we going to do about the peer-to-peer traffic that's clogging up all the internet? And now this is yet another big bandwidth showing up on placed, on a network where it wasn't expected. So figuring, service providers will figure out how to make money and monetize the existence of it, or they'll lose because somebody else will. So in parts of the world, we're seeing the network providers going proactively to the CDN guys and saying, look, we can work together and provide a better quality of experience. If you pay us a premium for accessing the network, you'll have the express pass through. And in the States, some of the stuff is done to go and block it, and they were going to force the CDN guys to pay, but the FCC overruled and said, no, you can't do that. So now there's this more of a partnership approach where they're proactively trying to sort out and offer them express pass.
Exactly. It's inevitable that everybody has to, especially the telcos, have to have their toes in the water in some form. Ravi, do you have anything to add to in terms of, how do you see the entire landscape evolving? Where do you think the service providers need to evolve in terms of business models?
I think the service providers have already realized it. Right? So, when we see mobile subscriber explosion, especially in countries like India and China, and there's so much of mobile apps that's out there, and people accessing that on the mobile, right? So typically, if you had that kind of traffic, it would have brought down any service provider network had it not been for a content delivery or a mobile offload kind of a solution, right? So I think they have realized that they are creating that, and to counter to that, companies like Google, others are stepping into the value chain by creating their own content delivery networks, right? So they are coming into AT&T, for example, is a customer of ours as well, the ICPS network, and Limelight I just spoke about from an example standpoint. And as a network equipment, vendor, my metric is the number of data centers that I'm building, the number of things from a mobile offload standpoint. Then obviously from a CDN standpoint, there's a lot of demand that we're seeing, and we're building those things. Especially when people are looking at what are the flows that we see, how do you monetize it, have a third party come in and help that. So I think they've realized it. There's no way running from it. The other thing which I also see is there is this classic cable versus telco. The cable guys are pushing out video, and they are now giving out voice services and internet. So on the other hand, you see telcos with their IPTV services, right? So there's a couple of telcos that I speak to. What they see as OTT as a channel and as part of the bouquet that they're offering as part of the IPTV service offering. So there are various strategies to monetize it, but they're embracing it. I don't think so. There's no way that you can allude to it or.
Well, a quick handing out to the audience. Anybody has any questions to the panel here? Surprising how all of us consume so much of video, but you're supposed to be in that business.
I think let's go over to the top.
Really? I think so too.
So I want to add to what's happening, but what I wanted to say is also Alcatel-Lucent. So I think for service providers first of all have the customer base. But over the top do not. They're removed from the customer base. I think that's one critical advantage for you guys. Service providers also understand the geographical location of users. But over the top, it's just a decentralized kind of model where you're not sure where the access is coming. It's best you could have these countries. But service providers also know where exactly the user is accessing that content from. The other point is that service providers have multiple access networks. So as users move from fixed to wireless networks, the service provider actually knows exactly that mobility construct. So if you look at these are very distinct advantages that service providers can actually use, I think, to deliver a better over-the-top experience. And from Alcatel-Lucent in the network now as a vendor, to service providers we have, what was mentioned, we have a CDN option that goes all the way to the DSLAM, potentially, if you wanted to. we're bringing application awareness into the network. So the network now can offer tiered pricing for different applications being accessed, or even zero rating some applications to offer a tier pricing model. We also introduced the quality of service to ensure the QoE experts. But lastly, but not least, we also have APIs, where we see now that business intelligence in the network should be exposed northbound to make new business model appear, such as cloud. And also we see video in the cloud being another hot topic, using the intelligence of the network itself. So I think service providers have a distinct value proposition. Hopefully that's what I might agree. As a vendor, we can offer a network distinct technology differentiation to monetize.
Great, I will have had some more questions. I think I'll take it offline. Thank you so much for your interesting discussion. Guys, thank you.